Hello there, and welcome to the Harley Carnes podcast, Harley on the Headlines. A quick look, and you can bet some opinions on the stories of the day. I don't know what the day's going to offer when I come in each morning to get started on this stuff. And it's always kind of fun, for that reason. Hope you'll come back. Hope you'll continue to come and invite others to join us. That's what like, follow, subscribe are all about. And a little word of mouth sure helps as well. Great headline, or maybe not so great, from the Associated Press that said today, "The Black Caucus is the conscience of Congress." Well, that's BS, because no, it is not. The Black Caucus is like every other caucus on Capitol Hill. It's a collection of members of like mind, and in this case, like color, who combine their political power toward legislation that supports them first and foremost. You could call them the Black Lobby. Same thing. That is the nature of politics. A truthful headline might have said the Black Caucus is nervous. Why? Well, because an unconstitutional accommodation to their demands has been called that by the Supreme Court, and that will take a chunk out of the Voting Rights Act. So here's what the hubbub is all about. The Supreme Court says the Constitution was right when it says race cannot be used to draw up congressional districts. At issue was the map in Louisiana. That original concept is grounded in all men are created equal, which means you cannot draw up districts that make sure that white people are elected. It also should mean that you cannot draw up political voting districts to make sure that blacks or Hispanics or Asians or any other group are elected. But districts have been gerrymandered in that way for decades. Democrats have depended on it. The word gerrymander simply means to create artificially district lines that favor one group over another or one partisan political persuasion over another. That definition spells discrimination, doesn't it? Because of that Supreme Court decision, many states could, and all states probably should, do as the Constitution says, as once we did, and draw up districts based on the census every 10 years, not based on partisan imagination, as is happening in both parties this year. The Supreme Court ruling is another that supports the concept that reverse discrimination is also wrong. Discrimination in favor of any race over another is wrong. It's wrong constitutionally, and it is wrong commonsensically. Democrats, especially on the far left, are feeling a sense of doom over it. Republicans are feeling quite the opposite. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has another day on Capitol Hill being grilled by Democrats over the Iran war. Now, this is supposed to be a budget hearing. The department is requesting $1.5 trillion budget, and most of the 40+% increase is to rebuild the arsenals and continue new weaponry development. $1.5 trillion? That's a whole lot of money. It's worth talking about and discussing. So far, the hearing, though, has been about political grandstanding and Democrat attacks on Hegseth, on the Trump administration, and nearly nothing on the nit and the grit of such a huge budget. Some really dumb stuff has been said, too. For example, that the $25 billion spent thus far is too much and has been a waste because Iran has not surrendered yet. Democrats sing a different tune when they talk about Ukraine's war, not even ours, Ukraine's war, and the $300 billion that the U.S. has spent on that war, 300 versus 25. One Democrat said the U.S. was involved in another quagmire, which is about as wildly empty and purely political nonsense as you can get. Vietnam was our big quagmire. It was more than 10 years, boots on the ground, a grinding war that killed 57,000 of us. This is 2 months so far, about 8 weeks. The U.S. has lost a handful of people. It's sad, but in war making, that describes spectacular success. The enemy has been militarily crushed, air, sea, and its supporting infrastructure on the ground, gone. What remains is to convince the Iranians that peaceful coexistence is the way to go with Israel and the West, including the U.S., and with its more moderate Muslim neighbors. They cannot be convinced philosophically because Iran's radical leaders are filled with insane levels of hatred for all of the world that doesn't hew to their radical views, which means they must be bent to the will of the rest of the world, full stop. The only country in a quagmire is the one caught in a miasma of viciousness and stuck in a sucking swamp of hatred. Our political leaders should not join them there. So, to win it all, America does not have boots on the ground. In most conflicts, 2 months in, we would still be streaming men and materiel, tanks and planes and warships into the target country, fighting our way across the border, digging in, setting up shop. Instead, the same narrow strait or thoroughfare between the two seas that allows Iran to shut off 1/5 of the world's oil supply also allows the U.S. to blockade it and stop all Iranian ships from getting in or out. You can bet Iran didn't count on that. They thought they had us by the short hairs by shutting it down for everyone else. Well, in short, Pete Hegseth and company turned the tables on them, and they shut the whole thing down. It won't be long. Iran will be turning off its drills and its pumps, essentially shutting down its oil business. Too much oil and no place to put it or sell it, drowning in their own sticky mess. The steps being taken to shut down their shadow banking corridors will also essentially help put them out of business. The blockade was a genius move, and it prevents having U.S. troops in a quagmire like Vietnam or like Afghanistan. So maybe today on Capitol Hill, in both the House and the Senate, armed service committees are meeting in both cases. Maybe today they'll be able to actually discuss that huge, historically huge budget plan for defense. I mean, it's big enough. Probably ought to talk about it. The troop levels in other parts of the world they could talk about, and NATO, and expansion of drone capabilities, and warships to keep China from swamping the world with its Navy and its drones. The new plan to reduce U.S. forces in Germany, and so on. Lots to talk about. In Missouri, voters will be able to decide soon whether to get rid of the state income tax. It'll be a question on the Missouri ballot. The chances are pretty good the voters in the Show Me state will say, yes, let's get rid of it. If they do, the expectation is that similar to Florida and Texas, Tennessee, Nevada, Wyoming, South Dakota, it will lead to a renaissance for growth and for business in Missouri. Yes, other taxes, notably sales taxes, do tend to go up, but that revenue is driven according to the ability to buy stuff. That makes it more fair. Overall, however, getting rid of state income taxes has resulted in a huge boon and often a boom for the states that have done it. It can result in a smaller state bureaucracy and more streamlined governance and more common sense in state capitals because, simply put, the politicians don't have as much of the people's money to spend. Now, the reason they call it the Sinaloa drug cartel is because Sinaloa, Mexico, is where it is based. The U.S. Justice Department has unveiled an indictment for drug trafficking against 10 current and former Mexican government officials, including the governor of Sinaloa, Ruben Moya. All of them allegedly partnered with the Sinaloa cartel to distribute massive quantities of narcotics into the U.S. You know, it's taken a long time to find a U.S. administration willing to recognize that it is patently impossible for a huge organized crime operation like a drug cartel to exist and operate without the complicity of politicians and law enforcers where they live. Pretty obvious, really. I mean, especially when politicians and law enforcers who play ball get rich doing it and live in opulence. That goes in this country, too, you know. Now, some of those people will live on edge, wondering when U.S. Special Forces might wake them up one morning like Nicolas Maduro and bring them to the U.S. to face charges and justice for what they have helped to do to their neighbors, meaning us. Another tornado has dipped down out of the storm clouds near Dallas-Fort Worth and ripped through homes and businesses. This twister landed in Mineral Wells west of Fort Worth and EF3. This one was bigger than the two that hit on Saturday night, but this one didn't kill anyone. Several people were injured. It is the time of year. The east has nor'easters, ice and snowstorms. The west has earthquakes and wildfires. Tornado Alley keeps an eye on big, fast-moving storm fronts. In Wisconsin, outside a recycling center, there's a speed limit sign. That's Outagamie County, Appleton, Wisconsin. It says 17.3 miles an hour. The idea is to make drivers look twice at the speed limit and actually see it. It's a pretty good idea, really. Can you see that from now on? You'll be out on the highway, and instead of it saying speed limit 70, it says speed limit 69.2 or 70.4. I'd look at it twice, wouldn't you? Speaking of the Midwest, in Indiana, deputies got a call that there was an animal, a duck or something, waddling around in traffic, evidently an escapee from a nearby farm. When the deputy arrived, he found the farm had escaped. I mean, all of the farm birds, chickens, ducks, turkeys, geese, goats, anything else that took a notion to sashay out of the gate were walking around at or, on the road. Here's his body cam video. It's kind of cute.
Hello? Well, I don't have any food. Gil? Gil? Oh my God. Here, come on, let's go. Get in here. Come on. Come on. Let's go. Come on. Goats, chickens, turkeys, ducks. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Come in here. Well, let's go. Come on. Come on. Let's go. Come on. All right. I don't have no food. Okay.
You got to love it. That guy did a good job, didn't he? I guess that'll do it for the headlines. Thank you for dropping by, tuning in today. Hope you'll come back. Bring some folks with you. You give me a little of your time, and I deeply appreciate it. I thank you. It's also worth mentioning we're found on Spotify, video and the audio. It's on X, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube. I'm Harley Carnes. Until next time, please do yourself a favor. Make some good, conscious choices in your life. Make a decision to be happy. And fly safe. It's the only way to get there.